My sister handed me the most humiliating Christmas gift of my life. 15 minutes later, she couldn't even look me in the eye. I'm Mira, 29 years old. And for most of my life, I've been the quiet one, the daughter my family described in that gentle, dismissive way families use when they've already decided who you are. Mira's in logistics, my mother would say at parties, the way you'd mention someone's dentist appointment. Meanwhile, my younger sister Priya, 26, was the golden one. Marketing manager, leased BMW, a fiancé named Dev who wore his watch a little too visibly. An Instagram grid full of brunches captioned things like #blessed and #grateful, which was ironic because Priya was rarely either of those things in person. Every year, our family gift exchange happened in the same living room, under the same crooked star on the same fake tree that got dragged out of the attic for the 11th year running. And every year, Priya found some new way to make me the evening's entertainment. A joke here, a backhanded comment there, always delivered with a smile so nobody could call her out without looking like the difficult one. This year, I'd drawn her name. I got her a hand-bound journal and a gift card to her favorite coffee place. Modest, thoughtful, exactly what I could afford after a hard year. When it was my turn to open her gift to me, she handed me a small box, wrapped in ribbon that looked more expensive than whatever was inside it. She was already grinning before I even lifted the lid. The kind of grin that told you she'd been waiting all week for this moment. Inside was a half-used tube of drugstore concealer and a sticky note. For the bags under your eyes, working so hard for a job going nowhere, sis? Love you. She said it loud enough that everyone heard, then looked around the room like she was waiting for applause. She got it. My uncle laughed first, a short bark he didn't even try to hide. My cousins followed, nudging each other. My mother let out a small, nervous laugh too. Not cruel, exactly. Just the reflex of someone who'd spent years learning it was easier to laugh along with Priya than to risk becoming her next target. My father said nothing. He didn't laugh, but he didn't stop it either. He just looked down at his drink. And that silence somehow stung more than the laughter did. Priya beamed, delighted with herself, already turning to show Dev her phone. Already moving on like she hadn't just gutted me in front of 12 people. I smiled. I said thank you. And I didn't say another word. Because I had learned a long time ago that defending yourself in that house only earned you a second round. I excused myself to the kitchen for water I didn't need. What nobody in that living room knew, not my parents, not Priya, not one single person laughing at that joke, was what I had been carrying quietly for 2 years. It hadn't started as anything impressive. It started as a spreadsheet on a Tuesday night after a 12-hour shift, me trying to figure out if I could broker freight loads on the side, using contacts from my day job. For the first 8 months, it was humiliating in its own way. A private, invisible kind of humiliating that nobody got to laugh at because nobody knew about it. I cold emailed 43 shipping companies and heard back from 3. I built pricing sheets at 1 a.m. and scrapped them by morning. I had a client back out on a 5-figure contract 2 days before, Christmas the year before, and I sat in my car in a parking lot and cried for 11 minutes before driving home and telling my family I'd had a good year at work. There were nights I didn't sleep because a shipment was stuck at a border crossing and I had no one to call but myself. There were months I ate the same $8 of groceries on repeat so I could reinvest everything into the business. There was a rejection email so cold, we've decided to go with a more established provider, that I kept it in a folder just to remind myself why I couldn't quit. Nobody sent me a sticky note of encouragement during any of that. I did it in silence, the same silence I was apparently famous for. And then, in November, a regional trucking company made an offer to acquire the brokerage outright. The number on that contract was more than my parents' remaining mortgage, twice over. I hadn't told a single person. I was waiting for the right moment, mostly because I didn't want it to feel like a performance. I just wanted, once, to give my parents something that actually mattered without it becoming a spectacle. But standing alone in that kitchen, turning a tube of concealer over in my hand like some kind of trophy, I decided the right moment had just arrived a little early. I walked back into the living room. My hands weren't shaking, which surprised me. Priya was still holding court, describing the destination wedding she and Dev were planning, somewhere with a view, obviously, laughing about how they were still sorting out financing for the honeymoon, as if the word financing was something amusing that happened to other people. I waited for a pause. Then I said, "Before we open the rest of the gifts, I have something for Mom and Dad. I was going to do this privately, but since we're all here," I reached into my bag and pulled out a plain manila folder. I'd almost left in the car 3 separate times that night. I set it on the coffee table and didn't open it right away. I let it sit there for a second, watching my mother's eyes flick toward it, watching Priya's smile falter just slightly, uncertain, the way people get when they sense the room is about to move without their permission. Then I opened it and handed the papers to my parents. The house. Paid off. Free and clear, effective the following week. My mother's hands started shaking before she even reached the second line. My father, who does not cry, who I had watched stay dry-eyed at 2 funerals, took his glasses off and pressed his thumb and forefinger against his eyes for a long moment before he could look up. The room that had been laughing 15 minutes earlier went silent in a completely different way. Dev's mouth actually fell open. My aunt set her wine glass down without drinking from it. My cousins stopped whispering to each other. And Priya just stood there, phone still in her hand, her whole face rearranging itself in real time as she tried to figure out how to feel. "That job going nowhere," I said, looking at her. Not cruelly, just plainly. Sold for enough to do that. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. But since we're sharing gifts and jokes, I figured I'd share too. Nobody laughed at the concealer joke again. Priya's face had gone a blotchy red she usually reserved for arguments with Dev. And for the first time in years, she had absolutely nothing to say. She didn't apologize on the spot. She didn't need to. The silence did it for her. Loud enough that even Dev shifted his chair a few inches away from her. Like he didn't want to be standing too close when the room finished processing what had just happened. My mother reached for my hand, still shaking, and said, "Mira, and then stopped, because there wasn't a sentence big enough for it. My father was the one who finally spoke. He stood up, walked over, and pulled me into a hug tighter than any he'd given me in years. "I'm sorry we underestimated you," he said quietly. "Just for me. I'm sorry it took this for us to see it." That was the moment I actually had to fight not to cry. Not the folder, not the silence, not even Priya's face. Just that. She found me in the kitchen later that night, doing dishes I didn't need to do, just to have somewhere to stand that wasn't the living room. "I didn't know," she said, "about any of it." "I know," I said. "That was kind of the point of not telling anyone. Why didn't you say something sooner? To me, I mean, whenever She stopped herself before she could finish the sentence. "Because I didn't need you to be impressed by me," I said. "I needed you to be kind to me." Those were never the same thing, and only one of them was ever up to you. She didn't have a comeback for that. For the first time in 29 years, she didn't have anything at all. A few days later, she texted me. No jokes attached this time. No winking emoji to soften the blow. "I'm sorry. I mean it. I think I was jealous and never knew how to show it as anything other than making you smaller. I didn't need the money to matter to anyone but my parents. I didn't need the applause, and I definitely didn't need Priya's approval. What I had needed for years was for someone in that room to stop mistaking my quiet for weakness." It turns out that only took one folder, one father's apology, and 15 minutes to finally get